Animals weren't allowed on the coaster. I was last in line, midnight. The crowd had thinned. No screeching teens trying to impress their boyfriends. No blustering boyfriends trying to impress their girls. School was to start the next morning, in less than 8 hours, and they'd taken their bravado and stolen kisses off the midway, back to the dark parking lot, and finally to the lightning buggy backyards of their quiet suburban homes. Summer was almost over. The air was still summer warm and summer close, but that snap had already happened when something changes in the air and the angle of the sun. I was last in line behind a Latino couple in their 30s. He couldn't keep his hands out of her hair, wavy and shiny and heavy. A deep coppery color I knew wasn't hers, but still, it was beautiful. Giant slices of rainbow neon light dancing around them and across the amusement park sparkled on the silky strands. I wanted to touch her hair too, so I didn't begrudge him the pleasure. I was last in line, and it was a little after midnight. The park closed at 12, but I could see from the pep in the step of the carny running the coaster, he wasn't about to let the last dozen paying customers get away. Summer was ending for him, too. He'd be dismantling his steel and fluorescent monster when the sun came up, maybe before, bolting it to one of the flatbed semis waiting out in the dark parking lot, driving home, maybe hitting the last few shows of the season on the way back to a rancher in Florida, a trailer in Kentucky, or a cabin in the foothills of the Alleghenies. I was last in line just after midnight, sucking on the remnants of a chocolate cherry snowball, the marshmallow having long dissolved from the perfect white pillow perched on top into a watery grayish-pink chill. My first of the summer, and summer was almost over. Things get away from you when you grow up. The anticipation of summer's first snowball buried somewhere beneath the habitual tasks that line up and become a life. A life too busy for snowballs and cotton candy and roller coasters. I was last in line a few minutes after midnight. As the carny opened the gate and started taking tickets for the last ride, something brushed my leg. Behind me at the end of the line was a small dog licking a gob of marshmallow from the blacktop. I could hear the line shuffling ahead. I put my snowball on the asphalt. The short brown snout dove into the paper cup and licked it clean in a few seconds. The dog's short coppery hair was as shiny and inviting as that of the woman in front of me, who was taking her first steps toward the gate and the coaster. I reached down and picked up the little dog. as small and light as a chihuahua with the face of a fox. It neither struggled nor yelped, but acted as if it were enjoying a perfectly ordinary evening of eating snowballs and waiting in line for the roller coaster on the last day of summer. I was 20 feet or so from the carny, who was busy tearing tickets and smoking. I moved with the line, and the dog buried its small head between my hip and the crook of my arm, as if it were seeking comfort from its mother. A few feet from the gate, the dog found the armhole of my t-shirt and crawled inside, taking the same position against my right hip and arm. I cupped my hand around the curve of its hindquarters and kept moving. The carny took my ticket, and the rusty gate clanged behind me. I followed the copper hair to the end of the platform and climbed into the last car. I pulled the safety bar down tight against my lap and wrapped both arms around my side, where the dog still lay cradled, like a dozing infant. The carny came down the row, ash hanging from the tip of his dead cigarette, and secured all the restraints. "You okay in there by yourself?" He leaned too close and pressed the bar deeper into my lap. "Want some company?" I smiled and shook my head and held tight to my strange cargo. The carny stepped away and yanked the giant lever that released the coaster brake. I felt the dog tense as the car shook loose and the gears caught in the great greased chain running under us in the track. The carny waved goodbye and pushed the button that sent the cars clacking and jerking out of the narrow covered station and into the bright night. I opened my mouth to shout "Stop!" but felt the little dog uncurl and snake across my middle to pop its head out of the scooped neck of my t-shirt. I crossed my arms tight over the small warm body, and the dog pushed back and settled in between my breasts. The air was cooler and fresher up above the blacktop, above the trees. Below, a few stragglers headed for the exit. The Ferris wheel made its final heaving rotations, and the lights on the midway began to wink out. At the top of the coaster, the cars came to a clattering halt, and we sat in silence high in the clean, cool air, the taste of cherry and chocolate and marshmallow still on our lips. The dog, its eyes wide and black like the night around us, looked up at me and then down at the glitter and glow below, and I thought I felt a small, satisfied sigh escape its slight frame, still huddled against mine in the dark. We were the last in line, just after midnight, and summer was almost over.